Good afternoon, everyone. I'm counting the people online and the people in the pews, and we're pretty close today. I am so glad to see the faces in front of me and the names and faces up on the screen today. It's kind of an interesting day because for many folks, this is a day when Easter is celebrated. And as Unitarian Universalists, we have some of our folks who enjoy celebrating Easter and many who do not. So we thought today would be a good day to focus more instead on Earth Day, which is this coming Tuesday. And Easter has a message of joy and rebirth, and it's no coincidence that it was put at this time of year to overlay some of the practices of the other folks who were being indoctrinated into Christianity, but already celebrated the rebirth of the earth, right? We can see it right now as we go outside. If you've been walking, I know I have with my kids, we're watching the little buds come out on the trees and the little sprouts come up through the ground. And this month we are focusing on joy, and there is so much joy in seeing the earth come back alive. So this morning, while we hold the Easter celebrations of joy in our hearts, we're also going to celebrate here today with Earth Day and the rebirth of the plants and the growing things that we know have been sitting, doing their thing under the ground, and now we get to see them re-emerge. So I'm going to keep my reflections short, and basically to that today, because I'm excited about the reflections that Ollie has, because we know how much joy she finds in soil and all of the amazing things that grow and create our soil. So I want to make sure we make space to hear her words. And in addition to hearing her words and her joy and excitement about the science of the soil, we also are going to hear poetic reflections from Joey in the form of haikus throughout today's service. So you're invited to bring your whole self into this service, your thinking mind, your creativity, your loving heart, and even your helping hands, as we will come to the close of our service, or near the close of our service, with a planting ritual for those in person to take a seed home. If you are joining us online today and you'd like a plant delivered to you at some point, let me know, or if you want to pick one up later in the week, please send me an email. I'll be happy to figure out how to get you a seed of your own.
My name is Ali, and I go by she, her. I'd like to talk about the cooperation between organisms that occurs underground. This would be a peek at the relationships that all life depends upon, which is hidden beneath our feet. A lot of us have heard that fungal threads, called mycelia, often connect the roots of a tree to the roots of neighboring trees. They do that to share nutrients and to help each other. Trees can be connected to their own species or to different species. For instance, a maple could be connected to another maple, or it could be connected to an oak, or an elm, or an ash. Most people haven't heard that fungal threads also connect the grasses under our lawns. And fungal threads even connect the vegetables within our gardens. In fact, about 80% of all plants on Earth are connected to one another by fungal threads. Trees are not connected to grasses, and our lawns are probably not connected to our vegetables. There's one large group of vegetables that is not associated with mycorrhizal fungi at all. It's the cabbage family. Those are broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, arugula, mustards, and more. They're not connected to each other or to anyone else. These are not real. They're an artist's rendition. We may see mushrooms above ground, but we don't see the many feet of mycelia that are underground. And these mycelia are too small in this picture. These are real mycelia. They've just started, and that's why they're still short. And these are real mycelia. I was calling them threads because they're very thin, but they're actually tubes. You see, the roots of plants are much thicker than mycelia. The thinnest roots, called root hairs, push their way through the soil with great effort. But mycelia are much thinner and can extend much farther through the soil. In fact, a teaspoonful of soil can hold miles of mycelia. And I still have a hard time wrapping my head around how tiny they are. Those thin fungal tubes can connect one tomato plant to a carrot. If the tomato plant is short of water, the fungus will choose to carry water from the carrot to the tomato plant. Perhaps some lettuce has plenty of nitrogen, and at the other end of the garden, the onions need more nitrogen. The fungus moves nitrogen to the onions that are deficient. Tomatoes need calcium. That's not likely to be found closely to the tomato plant, so the mycelial network picks up calcium elsewhere and delivers it like Uber Eats to the tomato plant.
We and plants sustain each other without greed and have a balanced relationship. These unseen efforts are a most crucial life support system above and below ground.
What kind of relationship does the fungus have with plants? Does it attack them? Actually, a young plant that's not yet connected to a mycelium will make chemicals that are designed to attract mycelia. It sends those chemicals down its roots and out into the soil. A fungus that's in the area detects those chemicals and grows mycelia that reach for the source, which is the plant. It appears that both the fungus and the plant want to be connected. And when they become connected, they both benefit. That's mutual cooperation. Robin Wall Kimmerer, an indigenous scientist, calls it mutual flourishing. Fungi are unable to make their own food. They're not green and they can't undergo photosynthesis. Instead, they take what they need from the onions or tomatoes or whatever they're connected to. They take sugar and fats and proteins for themselves. Here's a photo of mycelia, also called mycorrhiza. I want you to know how amazing this photo is. I got my degree in soil science from U of M in the 1970s. At that time, none of this was known to science. However, it was known to indigenous people. They knew that trees were somehow connected and could communicate with each other. This is the very first photo that I've ever seen of mycelia that are connected to plants. These are connected to soybeans. And it was publicized just last month.
Ancient voice whispers, plants and beast share sacred truth, wisdom of the land.
Let's take a look at gardens and farms. If we have plants that are connected to one another, we really shouldn't use a plow or a garden tiller to turn over our soil. That would cut those fungal threads, and they'll take a long time to regrow. This is reason number one why we shouldn't till our soil. So far, I've been talking about fungus. I want to shift gears and talk about bacteria. This is a teaspoonful of garden soil from the top inch of a garden. There are more bacteria in a teaspoon of soil than there are humans on Earth. That's about 8 billion. Some are good, some are bad, but we need them. They break down dead material and they create new chemical compounds that our soil and plants need. They're the chefs of the community. If a field is plowed, most of these bacteria will end up deep down in the soil where they will die because they need oxygen. This is reason number 2 why we shouldn't plow or till. Here's another critter you may find in the soil. It has many names. Scientists call it an isopod. The rest of us call it a roly-poly, or pillbug, or sowbug. It's a good creature that breaks down wood and cardboard and other tough materials, like dead stems and sticks that may be in our gardens. This is a mite, M-I-T-E. It's very tiny. Some eat bacteria and some eat fungus. And this is a nematode. They look like tiny worms that are made of glass that are 1 or 2 inches long. All of these creatures work on finding food and together make our soil richer. And this creature, in my mind, is one of the most important in our gardens or farm fields. It's an earthworm. It makes tunnels that go deep into the soil. During the day, it goes up and down through the same tunnel many times every day.
Beneath the surface, quiet cooperation, vast life flourishes.
Every fall, my wife Lois and I collect bags of leaves for our garden. We cover the entire garden with leaves about 1 foot deep. That takes 40 bags for our garden. We leave them untouched all winter. By early July, all of those leaves are gone. Each earthworm has come up through their tunnel, grabbed a piece of leaf, and pulled it down below. Obviously, they did that an enormous number of times. The leaves are their food, which they share with many other creatures underground, the bacteria, nematodes, mites, and more. They've created a food shelf for any creature that shows up hungry. As earthworms take good dead material underground, they're adding organic matter to the soil and also sequestering carbon. Last summer, when the trees made those leaves, CO2 was pulled from the atmosphere for photosynthesis and used to make sugars, fats, and proteins in the leaves. When the earthworms pull the dead leaves underground, perhaps 4 inches down or 2 feet down, they're actually sequestering carbon while also adding nutrients to the soil. I've been gardening in this plot for over 30 years. The dark brown, rich topsoil was about 2 inches thick when we started. Now it's over 1 foot deep. The soil tests done by U of M showed that we had about 4% organic matter 30 years ago and 15% now. When I was a student of soil science, I didn't know that the organic matter could increase that much. I consider the earthworms my coworkers. They do a lot more work than I do. The roly-polies are my coworkers, and so are the bacteria and the fungi that connect plants to each other to fulfill the needs that I'm not even aware of. That's cooperation on a grand scale.
Earthworms weave through dirt, silent dance as leaves decay. Rich compost is born.
So if you want to have an organic garden and sequester carbon, how can you accomplish that? Well, in the spring before planting, pull most of the leaves off of the bed that you want to plant. Put those leaves in your pathways and be prepared to step in deep, wet leaves. Loosening the soil is important, but we don't want to turn it over. This is a broad fork for loosening the soil. In this picture, it's upside down. They come in several sizes. Mine is the smallest, 15 inches wide with only 4 tines. The largest I've seen is 20 inches wide with 9 tines. Holding the handles vertically, step on the crossbar to push the broad fork down. Then pull the handles back about 45 degrees. Bring it back to upright and lift it out of the soil. Drag it towards you and do it again. So you're going to move backwards through your garden. You can prepare one bed at a time or do a whole big area. Then let the soil dry a bit so you can rake the surface smooth and you're ready to plant. This is much less work than using a tiller to turn over the soil, and much less destructive. The mycelia are left in big pieces instead of being finely chopped, and the earthworms are mostly whole. This is how an area looks after it's been planted. It's not neat, and some dead leaves are sticking up. Did you notice that we didn't add fertilizer? The earthworms and their coworkers took care of that. They built a food shelf with many different nutrients. Bacteria broke down the leaves and created new compounds. Is your mind boggled by the interdependent web of life? Mine is too, every time I think about it. There's an underground food shelf that life depends upon, and we don't know much about it. The vegetables depend upon it, and we do too. All these different creatures, fungi, worms, mites, work together to support, first and foremost, survival of themselves, but also each other. And we humans depend upon their whole team. We're dependent on them to create healthy soil and a flourishing planet.